And if Ms. Robertson will take roll, we can get started.
Okay, so I see Isma Alam.
Good morning, I'm here.
And Dennis Brennan.
I'm here.
Kevin Walsh.
Good morning.
Doug Strayer.
Present.
Dan Faminsky.
I'm here.
Clark Henry.
I'm here.
Brian Backus. Paul Green. He's also here. Supervisor Syed.
Morning, everyone.
Denise Murphy McGrath.
Good morning.
And looks like Josh Hawley just signed on. Hello, Josh. And then, hi. And then Chairman Delarada.
Yes. Okay, we will call the Economic Development meeting to order. And do we have any public concerns this morning?
No, I just double checked my email, but I didn't get anything specifically from anybody.
Okay, very well. That brings us to the March 5th, 2021 minutes. Are there any additions, deletions, or modifications that are proposed to those minutes? Seeing none, I will move to accept the minutes. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Is there any opposed? That will pass unanimously, and that will bring us to the COVID-19 updates. And Ms. Robertson, you have the camera.
So the last meeting we talked that we were opening up on March 15th. It went well. All my staff is in the office operating at 100% here. And, we're still wearing masks. And, I'm taking all the precautions that we can, but we're open and it seems to be going very well. And we're very happy with that. It's extremely busy. We have a lot of people that are coming in and it's been good. We love seeing each other again. It's a better workflow and we're happy to be back.
Excellent. So is it fully staffed, Laura? Is your department fully staffed at Town Hall yet or no?
Yeah, we are fully staffed. One of my building inspectors had a death in the family, so we're short staffed right now because he's on bereavement, but we had ourselves together for the span of like 5 days. And, we support him while he's gone and give him as good wishes as we can. And when he comes back, we'll be back to full staff again.
Excellent. I believe that brings us to the resolutions.
So, yes. So, very close to finishing the planning fees at the last town board meeting, but didn't finish it. So that should be no problem this time. Clark did a lot of work for me for looking at other municipalities, and Elaine and I were working on it right at the end of the deadline, but we just weren't final with it, but we're pretty close now. So I don't expect that to be a problem for April. Then the first page attachments in your packet are the Overlook Park subdivision, which the planning board recently approved. And if you look at the map, that large parcel that says conservation land to be conveyed to the town of Niskuna, we've talked about this a bunch of times, but we finally have the deed. Paul Briggs has got the deed, and I attached the legal description there for you guys to see. So we were just looking back. Typically, when we do a subdivision and land's being dedicated to the town, it involves like roads and utilities, but this one does not. It's just land. So Paul Briggs and I talked, and felt like we should just do a resolution from the town board accepting the land. Let's put it up quickly here. It's this big long guy here. And this is the connection to the Leishakil. And I think that the intent is, if we can, to get this connected into the Leishakil and transfer ownership to the Nature Conservancy eventually, if we can, would be, I think, the intent of that. But we have to take it to begin with before we can do that.
Could you point out the section of land again?
Yeah, I wish I had it in my GIS, but it's this big long parcel here, 1.5
Okay.
acres. The Lisha
Alright.
Kills up here. This is like a little parking lot that people already use to walk this trail. So,
Okay.
the next resolution I have in there is recognizing Arbor Day. And we don't like, I know Denise has said this a couple of times. We try to stagger our email blasts so that we're not filling up people's inboxes. And we just sent out the email for the Notch Street. So we want to give it a second. But I'm thinking maybe at the end of the day, we could do an email blast with this flyer for Arbor Day. I can send it out to you guys, but essentially 10 a.m. to 11:30. And we've got list of what we're giving out. Linda did this because Linda's amazing. And we're going to update this map before we send it out, but essentially we want to make sure that we don't cause a traffic problem like we did before. So in on Baker, give the trees away here, out on to Aqueduct Road. And there's a lot of room for cars to stack there, so we think it should be fine.
Excellent.
And we do that resolution every year. It's part of being a tree city, so that one's on there. The next thing we have is the adoption of the New York State Stretch Energy Code. I should have put the public hearing on here too. So we've got the public hearing, but my recommendation would be to hold the public hearing and adopt. You could table it if you got a lot of input on the public hearing, but I think that, as I said before, a lot of towns are going to be adopting this, and the $5,000 like award from NYSERDA and DEC is first come, first serve. So I don't foresee any problems with us submitting this to get that $5,000. But if we don't need to delay, I think it's better to get it in there quickly so that we're assured of the $5,000 rebate. This is just the local law, and I worked with Elena on this also. And it essentially just adopts the over and above code so that we have more energy efficient buildings in the town of Niskayuna. And one of the things we have to do, which we talked about at the last meeting, is after we adopt this local law, it does have to be filed with the Department of State and doesn't take effect 30 days until after its adoption. So that's another reason that if we can do it at this meeting, I would recommend that we do it. Did anybody have any questions on that one?
So we get, Laura, this is this much. So what do we need to do to get the reimbursement, the 5,000?
So if it's similar to the Clean Energy Communities grant that we did the last time, is we just have to submit a resolution showing that we adopted it. And I think that's just about it. We might have to wait the 30 days. I'm not really sure. And then they typically just issue us a check, but they do require that the check be used in furtherance of clean energy community goals. So you're not supposed to take the $5,000 and put it to like your police car. not that we don't need to put $5,000 in a police car, but there are some things that you're supposed. There's like a framework that you can use it in. You don't have to submit. Typically, you don't have to submit to them and say this is what we're using it for. But the last time we got the $5,000, we used it to buy our EV car because we had a different grant, so we used that as our cash match. So
Okay.
that was easy.
Okay. Thank you, Laura.
Mm-hmm. And I have it later in the agenda, but we were thinking because there's a lot of things that we need to do in this grant to get to $100,000, and one of them is becoming Climate Smart certified. So that's under my Climate Smart community Climate Smart thing in my agenda. But we had asked for $5,000 under our budget to do a greenhouse gas inventory, and we weren't able to do that this year, obviously because of budget constraints, which is completely understandable. But that might be a really good use for the $5,000. Then it doesn't come out of our budget. So I'll talk about that later. Yeah, did anybody have any other questions on that? Okay, and then the last thing I have, I can bring up pictures of it. Sorry, you have to see my cluttered email. Sorry. I sent this to Denise and Yasmin. Joel Bezoin had found a bunch of cool historic stuff in his house on the corner of Shannon and Route 7. And one of them is this Hope Trust that is 176 or 179 years old. And I mean, it's in pretty good condition because there's a little note on it from the son that, from the great grandson that restored it in 1969. And it looks like it was originally for the house is called the Music House. It was originally for a music in 1843. So it's really old. It has a lot of history and it's in pretty good shape and it's very cool. And Joel was willing to donate it to the town. And so we were thinking that we could maybe like refurbish one of the little entryway things down there and just put it on display for people to see. But I think probably Yasmin or Denise, jump in here. I think we said we do need to do a resolution accepting it.
Yes. Yep. We will need to do that.
But it seems like a great idea. I mean, I'm thrilled. I can't wait to see it.
It's really cool. It's really cool. And I know Dennis has been in that house. He donated some stuff to the Historic Society, and he donated some stuff to a couple other people around who are good caretakers of history. So, but he reserved this one for the town because it's really neat and probably one of the oldest things in there.
Do we know how old it is?
It is in very good condition too. It looks very nice. Yeah.
How old do you think it is, Dennis?
Harry Craigier, who refinished it back in 1969, I think it was, dates it from around 1842 or 1843.
Wow.
When Anna Arbor Ogsbury married Thomas Mesick. So it is it's good 170, 180 years old. Yeah.
Wow.
It's cool.
Such a good idea. You know, in our basement, there are some items which are equally old. I went down there with Seth and we found like the original Mac computer that I don't think anybody has seen that before. So maybe we can make a little corner of the historical stuff, but that chest of drawers is beautiful, Laura. Gorgeous.
Yeah, so that's exciting. So we'll put that on there too. It sounds like it's a good thing to do. I think we've said this before, we'll do an Earth Day resolution if we have an Earth Day project, but I was at the Public Works meeting and it's a tough time right now for the paper recycling, so we're pushing that into the fall. So my recommendation is that we just do the Arbor Day resolution again this year. I didn't put the Earth Day one on here.
That's fine.
Okay. So the next thing I have is just, I think I'm going to keep a running total on our advisory boards until we kind of get them filled. We are down to one CAC vacancy, which is great because you guys appointed the Nicholas at the last meeting, and Rick and I reached out to him, and we're going to schedule a meeting with him prior to the next CAC meeting, which thank you, Chairman Strayer, for remembering that. And then our Climate Smart Communities Task Force is working hard. We just had a really good meeting with our youth representative and everything, but we're still down people on that one. And then the Complete Streets Committee, we appointed Greg Diebold at the January or February meeting when we were filling all our vacancies, and it was very exciting to see him. He's a fresh planner and was ready to get to work, and then got a job in Syracuse and is moving.
Oh.
So we're back to some vacancies on the Complete Streets Committee. But the one that's most critical, which Clark and I can talk to you about, is the Architectural Review Board, which we talked about at the last meeting. So, like, in terms of priority, I think we want to send the Architectural Review Board email blast out first, but also, again, stagger it with all the other stuff we're doing. And then maybe take a look at the Climate Smart Community Task Force, and then Complete Streets, and then CAC. So the one thing about the Architectural Review Board, which we had a person apply because they thought that they were in Niskayuna. They were right on the border of Niskayuna, and their children go to the Niskayuna schools, but they are technically in the town of Colony. And I believe that, as far as I know, there isn't a way around that. Do you guys know of that, if they are just outside the border, even though they're very involved in Niskayuna and go to our schools? We're not allowed to appoint them to our committees. Is that correct?
So they don't pay Niskayuna taxes, they pay Colony Town taxes?
So they pay Niskuna school taxes and then Colony town taxes. Yeah.
I don't know, Paul. Is there any exception for that?
Not that I'm aware of, John.
I don't think there is,
It's
unfortunately.
a bummer because it's really hard to get people on the architecture review board because they have to have certain qualifications and there aren't that many of them.
Could we put something in the architectural review board bylaws, so to speak, about that, or does that have to be the same as all of our other boards and committees?
We really need to stay consistent, John.
Okay.
Okay, just thought I'd ask. They were very excited about it, and when I told them they didn't live in Niskuna, it was a sad moment. I actually run into that fairly regularly. It's people in the Birchwood area. They're so involved in Niskuna, and they don't really understand where the line is. And if they're not the one that goes through all the paperwork, they just think they live in Niskuna. So,
Hey, Laura, just for the record, Resolution 2020-3, which is forms the ARB, reads, the Architectural Review Board shall consist of residents with substantial work experience in the fields of architecture or design. So maybe we could go after someone that has design experience, but is not necessarily an architect.
yep, makes sense. So we can put that in the architectural review board specific email blast people.
While we're talking about these things, Laura, I learned yesterday that Fred Goodman is leaving town. He called and talked to me about his future plans and obviously pointed out his role on ZBA.
He is an amazing chairman.
I know. This is an enormous loss. I do a number of things with him, and yeah, it's a big loss.
What did you have a time frame on that or no?
I think he's leaving at the end of May.
Oh boy.
Well, I think we should do a resolution to him recognizing his service on the zoning board. Because he's
Absolutely.
amazing chairman. And I don't know, I have to process that.
I know. I'm sorry. I more than understand. It's taken me 24 hours even to spit out the words. So I know.
Okay, I don't know how to move on from that. All right. Okay. So the Knott Street area improvement progress, sent an email out yesterday. I already got one really good comment. Someone was excited about the fact that we wanted to look, like at treatments old Niskuna wide, not just a single street, so that we're not just shifting traffic around. They really appreciated that. So I got that comment already. I checked my email this morning. I don't have any more, but we're gonna, between Jean Clark and myself, we're gonna keep a real close eye on my emails. I am heading out to everybody knows next week is school break, so I'm dragging my daughter out to the ocean for a couple of days, but we're going to keep my email up and open and make sure that it's responded to promptly when anybody wants to comment or be ready to attend the feedback session at the planning board on April 12th. So that's scheduled. The other thing I have on here is that at the last meeting I told you we asked the police department to put out counters on Via Del Mar. They did. They put a counter out for 3 days. We also had a member of a planner go out and do an hour-long count at a couple-hour point during the day, and the counts are low even when you compare them to other streets within the town of Niskuna. So at least on the days that we were collecting data, and we can continue to collect, it's a low volume of cars on Via Del Mar right now. So I have that data. I can send it to anybody. We're trying to get that data so that we know, what the baseline is now versus what, improvements and all those things. So we'll continue to monitor that. Does anybody have any questions on that one? Okay, I appreciate looking at all the emails I sent out about that. I think we're ready to listen to the public now. So Planning board's got just an update. The Overlook Park subdivision, which we were just talking about, taking the conservation land, is starting construction this week. I'm probably just going to send a quick blast out to the neighbors so they know the trees are going to be cut probably starting next week. Grading, we've got the TDE, double checking culverts and things out there. But I do think that we'll see substantial preparation for single family homes happening there within the next week or two. Kelt's Farm has a lot of comments from the TDE, but good comments, and we want to make sure we do that one right. We want to do all of them right, but it's high visibility. It's right across from our park. And there was a lot of good comments on the multi-use path and things that we're putting there, making sure that it's got space to River Road and just a bunch of things that the applicant's going to work through. So I think Clark and I are aiming on getting that back to him today so that he can work on that over the next week and then be back before the planning board on Monday. 1380 Van Antwerp, been discussing that minor subdivision at the planning board. Did look at reconfiguring some of the driveways and things to help with just kind of overall impact to that property. And I think there's still some questions that the planning board is trying to answer about stormwater, and they want those answers prior to calling for the public hearing, but likely they would call for a public hearing at the end of April. So that one's moving along. Riversledge project update. If you guys are, I'm going to share my screen again unless you had questions on those. Clark's been trying to keep tabs on what's going on out there and make sure that, you know, everybody sees the transformation. It's such a, well, you know, John loves this project. It's a really big deal, and it's coming along. So can you guys see the picture? I can't see what I screen share with you. Can you see the picture of the framing?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I'm just going to run through these quickly so you can see them. This is a couple of the foundations that are being poured. This is the start of a retaining wall. Riversledge has quite a few ledges. They're working through that building. The address of it is 3. This is the view from the buildings looking across to Alplaus. I don't know if you guys get any calls. I got a lot of calls from people on Alplaus. I haven't heard from a whole lot of Niskayuna people, but it definitely changed the view to the river. Here's another foundation. I think that's building 2. Again, just
Laura, if you don't mind, I'll just jump in with a couple of statistics for everyone. So the last time we talked, there are 16 buildings. They initially were going after the first 8. They've pulled permits on all 8 of those buildings, and they actually have permits on 3 additional buildings. So I would say they're running ahead of schedule according to their plan.
Wow.
You know, that the one that you saw that was framed is building 12. That's the first building that they started with. There's a variety of underground plumbing, backfilling, various stages of completion of the other initial 8. This little chart is showing the circled numbers are the build sequence, and you can see there's 2 with an asterisk, and this number 9. Those are the additional permits they pulled. So they're ahead of schedule.
darn it. Sorry, I was trying to bring up the slideshow for you, but I turned off my share screen. Sorry. Yeah. So, and then another thing that we wanted to talk about, that one was, I had stopped on my pictures here. They've pulled out the aqueduct stones. It's back here, and they're going to start using them for the treatments that I put in the email there, and they want to have this park done first. So it's unusual for a developer to do that, but they want the public improvements to be done first prior to they really get any benefit from the project at all, which has a lot of benefits from the town when the public park is up and running, you know.
Laura, is that the view from building 12?
No, this is farther down. This would be the view from like building, hold on, where'd the PowerPoint go? That's probably the view from like building 4.
Okay. So that is Alplaus we're looking at.
Yeah,
right?
you're looking at Alplaus.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, it's actually Rexford, but yeah.
Yeah, maybe down towards as you go towards the left is Outlaws.
Yes, exactly.
So what do
This is that little road that kind of mirrors Williams on the other side of the river.
What are you hearing from those folks? Good things or bad?
I mean, they get that it was a junkyard and that we wanted to rehabilitate the land, but they didn't like the trees to come down, which I understand more than most people. I completely get it. But we're going to replant. We're going to get the tree council out there, the developers committing like kind of massive amounts of funds to replanting, and we're gonna and we're allowed to work directly with the nursery. So it is really hard when trees come down. I agree with everyone, but there was a lot of invasive species there, and we're going to replant like diverse habitat and work on, you know, pollinator things and berries for the birds and all kinds of things that should make that really good habitat and a really nice park. So I
Excellent.
hear that, but yes.
Of course, we won't be planting mature trees there, though, right? They'll be
It'll take a while. I mean, there are some trees left you can see, but there was a lot of vines and shrubby undergrowth and like buckthorn and honeysuckle and things that were taken down that we're going to replant with native.
Excellent.
Yeah. So, and then the other thing that I had heard some comments about, this is a couple days later, that same retaining wall, is that they're going to be better about the bike path. I heard from a couple people that were riding down the bike path. They thought it was closed. The bike path is not closed. They only close the bike path down when they've got heavy equipment on it. But they're going to make sure that they're better about making sure that it's smoothed out and people can cross it at the end of the day. So they're aware of the bike path concerns and we'll continue to work on them. And then just quickly, 3410 State Street, which is Upstate Guns and Ammo, they had a notice and order because they had a Connex in the back of their property that was not permitted, not allowable where it sits. It got a temporary variance from the zoning board, pending like true kind of updates to the building. And so he submitted some stuff. Clark's been working with him really closely on what is needed on that property. It's sandwiched between State Street and Albany Street, and so it has 2 front yards. It's a tiny parcel. So any addition that he does to that building will trigger a need for another variance. But he is working on it slowly. I know that there was some articles that came out that said he's very busy, but he still has timelines that he has to meet for planning. And we've got him scheduled for the next planning board meeting to take a look at a permanent addition to the property that would take the place of the Connex. Any questions on any of those? Anything to add, Kevin?
No, thank you. Thanks, Laura.
Yep. The zoning board has 5 cases scheduled for April. And I was just talking with Linda about this. Like, we typically see 30 cases for an entire year, and we're already up to 20. So this is another reason why I'm totally freaking out that Fred is leaving. But yeah, the zoning board has been really busy this year, and it doesn't seem to be slowing down. We've had 20 cases, and we're already have stuff rolling in for May. So
why do you think that is?
I mean, our department's very busy. Like, I think that when people started working from home and people got less, had less ability to travel, didn't want to go to locker rooms and go to community pools, wanted to spend time in their backyard, they just do. I think it's COVID related, but like, you know, and so there's just been an incredible amount of pools and decks and additions because you can't go anywhere. So I think if you have that ability to spend money, like if you're stuck in your home, you might as well make it what you want it to be and have a safe place for your kids to play. And I just think everybody's making those decisions, and we just have a ton of applications that are coming in, and a lot of them are pools.
Yeah, it may actually be the same percentage of cases going to the zoning board. It's just the permits are up.
And the phones are crazy. Yep, we're busy.
Okay, that brings us to the grants.
So we had a walkthrough at River Road Park Wednesday, and Ray and Josh came, and the contractor and our town designated engineer, and it was a good walkthrough. They still have to do some seeding, some rough grading around, some final grading around the concrete pad up at the top of River Road Park. But it's really just finishing touches. The fences are all done. And we just need to keep people off of the grass for a little while to let it establish, because it was put in winter, and so it needs a little bit of time to grow before it gets strong. So Ray's working on some signs to keep people off the grass for a little while it settles and takes root. And yeah, the softball club is happy. It looks good. I encourage people to go out there. But it's a little muddy around the edges because they have to grass seed and hydro seed it. So maybe look from a distance right now, but they're in really good shape. They look good. So anybody who's interested, head on out to Riverwood Park. It's almost done.
Excellent.
Aqueduct Park is also looking good, but still haven't gotten the dock delivery. I've been making phone calls every other day. The rowing club finally gave up and had to put the docks in with their old system, which was really a shame. And so the docks are in, the old docks are in. We're waiting for the new docks to be delivered. And we still have, that's a substantial portion of that project that still isn't complete. So we're just trying to get those docks delivered, put in, tested, connected, and then we should be able to close that one out.
Rooms are all done, right?
The what?
The bathrooms?
The bathrooms are all done pending the water fountain on the front, which is for refillable to allow people in sort of from anywhere to get water for their water bottles. But the only thing with the bathroom is the ventilation. I'm still working on it. When the building inspectors took a look at it, it does need to have ventilation, and we show it in the building permit, but not in the contract documents, and I'm not really sure why that is. So I have to finalize what we're gonna do for the ventilation. If Charlie can do it, if the contractor has to do it. Charlie and I have been talking about it. He is always, as always, extremely helpful anytime we need anything down at the bathrooms. We're gonna just kind of game plan how we can get that ventilation in. There's very little use in that park right now because of the construction at Riversledge. It's really just the rowing club. So I don't know that there's a need immediately for the bathroom to be open, but I know that it is a priority, so I am working on it.
Okay.
And then the last one I have is the critical pedestrian connection scope change. After our last economic development committee meeting, I think a couple weeks after, I met with the county again about the crossing at St. Joseph. And because they just continue to have concerns there, but they are willing to work with us on it. What they want us to do is make more signage on either side of the crossing, which is completely fine. I'm a big fan of the more people are warned when they're driving, the better. And then also one of the things that they brought up is they really don't like the way that the parking lot works across from St. Joseph. So there's kind of an informal place where people pull in and park. And the problem is they kind of like back out into traffic right across from St. Joseph. And they sometimes like park on the trail and interfere a little bit with, I would say, like sort of normal use of that path. And so they were wondering if we can focus all of our efforts, like leave the Knott Street crossing alone for now, because they really want to see how the county's project works, because they're adding 2 crosswalks onto Knott. And so they're wondering if we can take all of that effort that we've been putting into a Knott crosswalk and put it to St. Joseph's and figure out if we can remove that parking lot or what we can do there to reduce all of that conflict of motion. So I will bring it up with the complete streets. I'm okay with doing that. I know there's a lot of people who want a crosswalk on Knott, but I do get that the county wants to see how the 2 that they're installing like this summer will work, and then see if another one is warranted or not. And I do also see that the parking sometimes, here, I'm just going to share my screen with you guys quickly, is an issue. I don't know what the history of that parking lot is, or if you guys have any thoughts or feelings on it. this is the parking lot here, and it sort of like runs right onto the trail here, and the cars back like right out into River Road.
Huh. Can you
But there
show that
are
again?
cars there a lot. Like, I'm not sure where they're coming from, and I'm wondering like if they're coming from St. Joseph, and then there's a nice place to cross, then obviously they wouldn't need to park. They can start walking. If they're coming from farther away, I'm not really sure where they're coming from, the cars that park there.
So it doesn't look like you can fit many cars there, right?
Yeah, I mean, I drive by there like a couple times a day because it's between work and home. I typically see like 1 or 2 cars there. A couple days ago, I saw a car in the ditch, almost upside down over here.
Wow.
Bad day for that car, but I think everybody was fine. But I would say you could probably fit 6 to 7 cars there. And Kevin, you probably drive by that all the time. Oh no, you don't. You're in the opposite direction. It's decent size.
Okay.
So anyway, let me know your thoughts. I'll be working on it. If we do change that, it is a scope change that we would want to notify everybody about. Complete Streets has been working on a couple things. One of them is that the county just kind of recently announced their ideas or their different versions of safety improvements to the Old River and Rosendale Road intersection. And I think the one that looks like it has the most benefits and traffic calming is the roundabout. I think they received a lot of really positive comments about the roundabout at River and Rosendale. And I think that they're likely going to move forward with the Old River and Rosendale roundabout. Complete Streets looked at that, and they looked at the other options. I think for safety and for traffic calming, it's definitely the best option. The one issue with it is that it's very tight. We talked about this before. Dennis had mentioned they're moving a historic home back because they have to do private property taking for this. And so there's really almost no room for pedestrian and bicycle amenities. And we had somebody attend the Complete Streets Committee that was concerned because people do use that intersection now to walk up to and it's very close to Lions Park, which is the heaviest used part of the Mohawk Hudson Bike Hike Trail, like period, in the capital region. So one of the things that they were thinking about is, can we fit a sidewalk or a multi-use trail on that roundabout? And it's so tight. But another thing they were thinking about is maybe making pedestrian routes that go around it, because it is on quite a hill, and it is very constrained, is rather than having people walk down Rosendale, which has got Rosendale, which has really steep banks, swales on either side, short, narrow shoulders, is send them down Niskayuna, which actually I don't think is that much better. And then try and get some kind of a crosswalk between Niskayuna and Lions Park. And then on the other side, direct people to stay on Old River Road and go down to Mohawk Landing Park. So it's an idea, and it's something that we are talking about with the county to try and figure out how that we can accommodate pedestrians there. I don't know if you guys had any ideas or thoughts about that. That's one of the things that we talked about. Okay, we'll keep working on it. And then the other thing is we've been getting a lot of, Regent was a learning experience for the Complete Streets. We have said that we want to make sure that everybody is on board when we do a demonstration project, and that segment of the street is asking for us to be there. And we've got a whole bunch of people from Wyoming that really want to see a demonstration project on their street. And so we're working through ideas and thoughts over there. And we've basically identified them for our project this year. Tree Council, I send again, April 24th at the Senior Center. And then I know I bring this up all the time, but I got an email, I forwarded it on to a couple of people, that we were officially designated as the Tree City like a couple of years ago. And they call us a 16-year Tree City. We had like a 8-year lapse, but initially, that's why Niskayuna has a tree code. Some of the initial planners here had gotten us designated as a tree city. And then our tree council, our recent tree council, started that process up again, I think 2 or 3 years ago. So we've been designated, I think probably 3 years in a row now, and 16 years total. Anybody's counting. And then Conservation Advisory Council, the very last page is in your packet, are the pesticide-free lawn program rollout. Jean is handling that. She's taking the calls and taking the checks and working with people to get the word out that you can have beautiful lawns without pesticides and have them take that pledge. So I think as of yesterday, we had about 20 signs out the door, and still a lot of interest. And I'm hoping that when the signs start popping up in people's yards, that'll be more effective even than the email blast, where people pay attention to them and start going to that website and deciding to do better environmental practices on their lawn. So it's up and running. I don't know if you guys had any. I know Denise was the first person to take the pledge. Thank you, Denise.
Thank you. The signs are beautiful, as I've been saying, and I'm so grateful to all your work on this.
Yeah, I mean, I'll say Ellen Daviero is really the one that made that happen from sheer will. So, but all the CAC was very helpful. I know Dart was helpful on that too. So it was a team effort. And then the natural resources inventory, we did that email blast a little bit ago. We got a bunch of cool pictures. Anybody who has pictures, please send them. We're collecting pictures of wildlife and landscapes and beautiful places and moments in the town of Niskayuna. And always happy to credit any of the photographers that want to send them. And also started up the natural resources inventory. That email did lead to a bunch of people who are interested in helping. And Ashok had a really good meeting this Wednesday, kind of dividing up responsibilities and getting this thing going. So I'm just very grateful to him. He's very passionate about this and is also, like Ellen, self-creating this project because he loves the town of Niskayuna. So it's very cool. And this is what I was mentioning. The Climate Smart Communities Task Force had a good meeting this Monday. They were very supportive of the adoption of the stretch code, and their request was to put the 5,000 to the greenhouse gas inventory. If we have a quote from before, that's what we put in the budget for our budget request for 2021. The quote is a couple years old now, but I don't think, I think we can keep it to $5,000, even if it would be more. Like, the volunteers can put in what it would take to keep that quota to $5,000 and get that greenhouse gas emission study done. It's critical to moving forward with any of the other steps for the Climate Smart Community certification. You really need to know what greenhouse gases you're putting out so that you can start reducing them and targeting how. So it's basically like the first building block of your full priority action items for the Climate Smart Communities Task Force. So that's the request on that. And then the other thing that they're up to is they want to do an EV event at Town Hall on May 15th in the Town Hall parking lot. It's a Saturday. I'll send an email out and make sure that's okay with, it doesn't seem to conflict of anything on the calendar. Just make sure it's okay with police and highway. But what they were thinking, what they want to do is bring 5 or 6 EV vehicles and just spread them out across the parking lot and let people come and take a look at them. We could also have people who install charging stations there so that they could ask questions on charging station, and then just people so that they can talk to people who have EV cars. There's a thing out there called range anxiety, and sometimes people don't want to buy the EV cars because they're afraid that they'll run out of electricity and be stuck somewhere. And so a lot of times just talking to somebody who has an EV car and seeing how they work and seeing, that they only, like, there's some people who only have EV cars in their family, and it's like, does that actually work, or do you have to have a gas vehicle? Like, so it's just like a really good way to do outreach and get people thinking about alternative fuel for their cars. And you also get points for Climate Smart Communities for doing that public outreach, so it's kind of a win-win. So I don't know if you guys have any thoughts on that, or if it's okay to move forward.
That's a good idea, Laura. Whose cars would be used? Would there be dealers involved in that, or just homeowners?
So right now it's just homeowners. They did ask if we want to invite dealers. I'm not sure about that. I'm more of a like, let's just talk to homeowners person, but I do think there may be some benefits of having dealers there if they, but I don't want people to come and feel pressured to buy cars. I want people to come and feel like they can ask questions about EV vehicles and see how they work and see which ones look like what, and
Yeah,
The
dealer
EV vehicle group is very active, and they've done a few of these events around the capital region already. They're really eager to be doing more of it in Niskayuna, and I know they're really eager to get more charging stations in Niskayuna. So I think this is a sort of different event than a car dealer event. This is, they call themselves the gearhead to gearhead kind of thing. They're just really into it. They have whole social media groups and communities unto themselves, and I think they like talking about it, and they want to talk about it with other people.
Yeah, and that's who wants to come, is those guys that you just said. So I would think that we should just stick to the vehicles and charging stations if people want to see how the charging stations work, and they can look at ours too. I've been told our charging stations are very
I have heard the same thing, that our charging station, Laura, remember all the drama around getting the charging station? My goodness.
I do.
I know you're still traumatized over it. You and I trying to get that, one thing, but people are thrilled with it. I guess, however it works better than others, and
that's what I've been
really
told.
love it.
Yeah. They're very high quality, I guess. I'm saying that that's Charlie for the record, because Charlie figured all of that out. He is so smart.
He's a man of many talents, our Charlie Bergami.
I think the reason that those are such high quality, because I've heard that from a couple of people. So I'll just keep working on that and give you guys the details. Well, they'll keep working on that because they're doing all that mostly themselves. And then I'm not going to take community choice aggregation off of here because it's really important, and I want to make sure that we're still moving forward with it. But I haven't had a meeting or touch base with them since last month, so I just want to make sure that we don't lose sight of that we don't not take a step. Community choice aggregation is one of the biggest things that can get us a huge amount of greenhouse gas reductions, but also a whole lot of points for the new clean energy community leadership round. So there's a couple things about that are really important. Okay, so I'm going to turn it over to Clark real quick and bring up our architectural review board slides.
Okay, we just wanted to give a quick update on a couple of the projects going through the ARB, and just another quick little portion of the resolution that formed the ARB. The ARB shall review all subdivision proposals following sketch plan approval from the planning board. The planning board may also refer site plan applications and special use permits to the ARB, especially when they involve construction of a new building or renovations to existing buildings. There are several other specific duties of the ARB, but that just shows how it plugs into any type of a subdivision. So we put a couple of pictures together of really the first cases that came through the ARB, 2804 Aqueduct being kind of the first real example. You want to present that, Laura? We can't see it yet.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Okay. So this just on the right, that's just a little condition that we've been putting in resolutions, indicating that the ARB would take a look at the project and offer some guidance. And then on the left is an example of a kind of a summary memo that gets put together from the ARB back to the planning board, indicating that they've fulfilled the requirement of that condition that was placed in the resolution. So if you want to go to the next slide, Laura. So this is 2804 Aqueduct. You can see in the upper right, that's the original condition of this site. On the left is some architectural renderings of the proposed change. And then on the right, lower right, you can see it's actually under construction. So this is going to be a really nice property, significantly improved when the construction is done. You want to go to the next slide, Laura? This is the former animal hospital on Balltown Road being renovated by Ritmo Construction. You can see a couple pictures of the exterior and the interior. And in the lower middle is a architectural rendering of what the finished product will be. He will be adding those tall columns back in the front. You can see they're removed in some of the pictures. And then there's a couple slides of the interior. So that's coming along rather well. The ARB had a lot of input on windows and some of the other details of the building. Want to go to the last one, Laura, I think. And
Clark, it
this,
looked like he was changing his roof line there. Is he raising his roof or something? Or maybe just a different angle?
I think it's just a different angle. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And then on the last one is the broken in. We're working with the applicant on this relative to signage, and the main thing here is going to be adding some depth to the building by some type of an awning overhang, either over the doors or that front window. We found some older pictures of this portion of Knott Street where there were quite a few awnings on some of the buildings, and it really added a lot of detail and made the area look much nicer. So we're hoping to get it started with this project, and then hopefully have that replicate and spruce up that whole area. So,
Those would be a permanent type of awning as opposed to something that's retractable?
yes, I think what the ARB had initially recommended was a permanent awning. That red area, I think, is a retracted fabric awning.
Great.
So we're trying to formalize the process a little bit between making sure there's a condition in the planning board resolution, and then having the ARB close that loop with a memo back to the planning board. So that's that. Thanks, Laura.
Well, thanks, Clark. Clark is the one that makes all of that stuff happen for the Architectural Review Board. So last thing we have, just quickly, I already did the Riversledge update. Sorry, I didn't realize I put that under building. We're catching up on our notice and orders. I think we're honing in on only being 2 or 3 months behind on notice and orders now instead of a whole year. Because I think I said at the last meeting we were allowing, per the governor's orders and everything, just flexibility during COVID. But we're trying to catch up on some of these permits so that they're not outstanding forever. And then again, just so incredibly busy. Like everybody that is able to seems to want to put additions and pools and stuff on their homes. So my guys are working really, really hard right now. I don't have an update for the Console Road sidewalk, but I will keep it on here until it's done. And then, Paul, did you just want to talk about any progress on the Vincenzo deed restrictions?
Yes, I hope to have that done by the May meeting. I am working on the deed restriction for Overlook and Celts. I have a little language change I'm going to use. Art Pasquarella is helping me with those, and that's been a big help. So I'm hoping that resolved by May.
That's great. I'm glad you were able to work with him. I know he really wanted to help.
Yeah,
so thank you for that, Paul.
And he's a real estate expert, and he's quite thorough. Trust me, very, very, and great. I'm not complaining. It's great. He's a great asset.
That's only going to be a better product. So I'm really glad that you guys are working together.
Right.
That's cool.
Yeah, he thinks of stuff I would have never thought of. So that's perfect. That's a perfect something to help. It's been a good find, Laura. Thanks.
Yeah, I'm glad. Okay, and then the last thing, and Dennis, you can jump in here at any time. Dennis and I. Oh, go ahead, Denise.
I just had one other thing while we still have Briggs. Matt Yetto obviously isn't here, but he reached out at some point, Laura, about somebody doing an improvement to their home or putting on an addition to their home, and they're taking down trees. Is it a home over by maybe the water treatment plant? Does any of this sound familiar to anybody? But he seemed quite concerned about it, and I don't know where it landed, whose ball this is.
He's probably talking about there's a pavilion that Lisa Sternlick wanted to donate to the town at the end of Lot 7. And
Yeah.
she has in her proposal to put the pavilion at the end of the road and then do tree clearing from the pavilion to the river to open up a view to the river. I think that if, you look at, she wants it to be in honor of her husband. She came to the town board and made a presentation. Her attorney is.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
didn't remember what the project was, but I'm well aware of the project. But is she able to clear trees? I mean, did we agree to that? Is this a Briggs matter? I don't.
Yeah, I mean, I think there was a resolution, I think, thanking her for the donation of the pavilion, but it wouldn't be allowed to put in without, proper building permits and an okay by the engineering department. And they have had concerns with which trees would be taken down because they want to make sure that the wellhead is not negatively impacted by any tree removal. So there's two kind of concerns that Matt has brought up. One is privacy, like they don't want the trees to be taken down and then people wandering into the wellhead area because it's a park on the other side, and they don't want people to go over to where we are making water. And then the other concern is that there's ice that comes through that forest, and those trees actually have ice scars on them, and so they don't want to remove the trees that protect the wellheads from ice.
Couldn't they enhance their view by just removing some branches as opposed to trees? Have they thought about that?
I mean, I think, it's been a long time. If I were to look, and my guess is that when they came to the town board, it was at least 3 or 4 years ago. And
Yeah,
like,
this was a Rob Hess project. Rob Hess did the legal work on it. Yeah, so
Yeah.
it's got to be a few years ago now. I don't want to derail the meeting. We're almost done. I know people are pressed for time. I'm looking at John in a suit. So, but it sounds like there needs more communication around this. So if we could figure out who has to talk to whom within the engineering department on this, and with Ms. Sterlack, we can just take it from there. Okay.
Okay, sounds good. Yeah, so the last thing quickly is that Dennis and I have, identified a need for stronger identification of historical homes to kind of avoid the issue we had with 1380 going forward. Joel Bezoin was lucky enough to work with us on the music house. But I went in there. It's a ton of work for him to be renovating it. I'm really glad that he did and we didn't lose it. But I think that we do want to put some code into place to formalize the way that we handle historic homes. We've talked about this before. I sent it to the planning board. The planning board has essentially 3 code options to kind of look at and how we want to model our code after. We're looking at Malta, Clifton Park, and then New York State. And it's probably like some hybrid in between. But the planning board's looking at it and they'll start moving forward. And I didn't attach all the codes to our packet because I felt like it was long enough. But if anybody wants to, I can email this board the codes that we were looking at for potential adoptions or potential recommendation to the town board for adoption. And Dennis, did you want to add anything to that? I know we even met with John Shearer, right, at Clifton Park a while ago.
Yeah, no, I think obviously I think it's a good idea to put this in as part of the code to make it clear that historic preservation is a priority concern, or is a concern part of the development of the town in the long term. And the 3 codes you sent, one is a model code from New York State, which is it has everything in it that you might possibly need. I think it's 30 pages long or something like that. But we can pick and choose the pieces of these codes that fit our needs and create a town preservation code. So that is something that would be considered in cases like 1380, but in other cases of changes that people want to make to their homes, or just to recognize the historic value of various homes at districts in town, homes that some historical significance, not because of when they were built, but who built them or who lived in them. Something I think we need to move forward with over time.
Yeah, so our thought process from that is we'd let the planning board pick through the pieces and come up with a good code that they could recommend to the town board, and then have you guys take a look at it.
That would work.
Can I ask a quick question, a quick general question? So this is a general question, Laura. For all these projects and all for the grants and everything, has the town identified the funding sources?
What do you mean?
For all the, the projects that you're talking about and also for the grants, has the town already identified the funding sources? Or is it going to be any burden on the budget? Because I'm just doing the forecast, so I'm just trying to figure it out.
I guess I'm not really, I mean, the grants.
Or I think she means the town's contribution, like have we identified
Thank you.
where that
Yes.
would come from?
Yeah, I'm sorry, I'm still not understanding. I mean, the grants we've always had, like the EV event is all done by volunteers. Which one are you asking about?
It's a general question. We can talk later if you want, because I know everybody's in a hurry, and to Denise's point, John is in a suit again today, so he has to go somewhere.
Okay, I mean, I guess, like, to your point, like the Climate Smart Communities Task Force, if we do the GHG, like we would take the 5,000 that we're doing for adopting the New York State Stretch Energy Code and apply that, but it would still be a contract that comes through the town. So, but most of the other stuff's done by volunteers and just my staff.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, is there anything else for the good of the order? Any comments on anything that we've done or said? Seeing none, I will make a motion to adjourn. Is there a second?
I'll second.
And is anybody opposed? We are adjourned. Have a happy Easter all.
Happy Easter, everyone.
Happy Easter.